morning. Welcome to Real Conversations with Kim Brown. Thank you guys for joining in with me tonight. If you were on my page earlier, you saw that we rebroadcasted last week's show. I apologize for any confusion for any of you all who were confused. That was last week's show. We had to edit some parts out of there, so we rebroadcasted it at 6 p.m. Thank you guys so much for coming back with me today at 7 o'clock. Go ahead and share, like, tag, invite your friends, share to your group. We're going to be talking about kidney health on tonight. Listen, I have an amazing woman in the studio with me today, an amazing guest, and I am going to introduce her to you all. Her name is Nakia Davis. She is a nurse practitioner, and I want you guys to know she is one of the brilliant minds behind kidneys, okay? Listen, I'm just going to read a little bit of her bio because I want to introduce you guys to her, and we're going to get into our conversation tonight and talking about kidney health, okay? So Nakia Davis, affectionately known as the kidney nurse, has been working in the nephrology field for 22 years in various roles. Yes, she is currently a nephrology nurse practitioner working with patients with end-stage renal disease at a nephrology practice in Metro Detroit area. Nakia is involved in several professional nursing organizations and holds a variety of board positions. She is currently serving as an American Nephrology Nurses Association. She also serves as the president and the committee chair designee for the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee at the national level of the organization. She also operated in past roles with the American Nurses Association, which included health policy representative, where she attended meetings with the United States Congress and staff to voice concerns with kidney care for people with chronic kidney disease, kidney transplant recipients, and organ donors. Yes, y'all. Listen, she bad. You hear me? She bad. She is the current secretary of the American Nurses Association, the Michigan chapter, and has served as a panelist for a professional nursing and health policy committee. Listen, she know everything you need to know about kidneys. All right? I had to make sure I read her bio. Her and I were sitting here just discussing about, the importance of having African-American women, powerhouses in different sectors, particularly dealing with our communities, the things that we struggle with, we battle with. And I feel as a woman of color who has excelled in the academic area, it is so important for us to acknowledge our successes, to make sure that we do not slight it, to make sure that we voice it loud. Because, listen, we pay for these credentials. That's what I want y'all to know. So, listen, give it up for my guest, nurse practitioner, Miss Nakia Davis, here with us on tonight. I want to thank you so much for coming. Just to get people a little bit about, I talked to you guys so much about myself. Many of you know that I'm a dialysis patient. I've been on dialysis for 10 years. I had the pleasure of meeting Nakia when we went to D.C. together.
Yes.
Yes. We went to D.C. to advocate for kidneys. So I'm just going to give her the floor to let her, say a few things and introduce herself if that's what she want to do, and just talk a little bit about what it is that she do. And then we got some more specific questions for you.
Well, thank you for having me. So this is a passion area of mine, and it's educating the community on kidney health. We always see a lot of things about heart disease and breast cancer, and not that those things aren't important, but most definitely kidney health is important as well. So as once stated, I've been working with patients with end-stage kidney disease for the past 22 years. And my sister is a kidney and pancreas transplant recipient. So this work is my passion area.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes. I had the pleasure of meeting her, like I said, when we went to D.C. And I got to say, at first, I had a ball of nerves because I'm like, man, I'm going to be there by myself. I don't know anybody. And it was just comforting to see another Black woman there with me, but then also somebody who understood this fight on a personal level. You know, I was just sharing with her that for my own personal story, as I started to think more about it and, you know, look into my medical history, you know, kind of found out that there was some indicators of kidney disease very early on, but not having the knowledge, not having anyone make my mom aware, or even knowing what to look for. Can you talk to us about some of the signs and symptoms, or what are some of the early things that a person can identify that something is going on with their kidneys?
Well, first, there's really no initial signs of kidney failure. By the time you start feeling symptoms, the kidney disease is advanced. So the best way to find out if you have kidney issues are blood and urine tests are what to do. And then if you have risk factors for kidney disease, such as high blood pressure and diabetes, which are the two main causes of kidney disease, then most definitely you need to be getting those things done on an annual basis with your physician.
Okay. When you talk about those risk factors, can you talk about how does high blood pressure damage the kidneys, high blood pressure and diabetes?
Well, you know, all the blood is being filtered through our organs. When your blood pressure is high, it's like shooting a water hose through a straw. And so that causes the damage there. And the same with the blood sugar. Just imagine, you know, pouring a cup of sugar in a little bit of water. All that slushy and sugar, and that happens in your blood too. And that damages, you know, the blood vessels, the small blood vessels that go to the kidney. And the eyes and that's how the other organs get damaged. And even with the high blood pressure, all the organs that are damaged from the high blood pressure and diabetes are, you know, the same. Your eyes, your kidneys, you know, things like that, your heart, all those.
So one of the questions that I had when early on was like really trying to understand, what do the kidneys do? Because like I didn't really know. So like, I mean, we know that we urinate, we have a bladder, we understand that, but not really understanding that the kidneys is a filtration process.
Correct.
So can you talk a little bit about what the kidneys do and what their function is in our body?
Okay, so your kidneys most people are born with 2 kidneys. Some people are born with 1. You can live with 1 kidney perfectly fine. Some people have 1 kidney and have no idea unless they had some kind of medical procedure to let them know. So they're like bean-shaped organs about the size of your fist that sit in your back on each side of your spine if you have 2, or you can have 1. They filter out the waste and extra fluid in your body, so they filter about 30 gallons of blood a day, which is equivalent in the fluid that is made, which is through the urine, is about a half a gallon of urine a day. And they filter out the waste from the foods and stuff that we eat. So people always associate kidneys with, you know, going to pee. But kidneys do other things in your body. They help control your blood pressure. They help keep your bones healthy. And they also tell your body to make more red blood cells.
Now talk about that fact, because that's what really shocked me the most going through this process, this journey of being on dialysis. I've been on dialysis 10 years. Thankfully, you know, God has blessed me to be able to bring 2 healthy children into the world on dialysis. There was a point where I want to say 5 years in, I had to have like several different blood transfusions. And I was unaware that my kidneys produce red blood cells. Like I just was like baffled by that. And so I think that's one of the things too that people don't understand as why the kidneys are so important.
Exactly. So your kidneys, normally function kidneys will send out a hormone to your bone marrow to make more red blood cells when it senses it's being low. So when someone has kidney failure, we have to replace that through artificial medication.
Yeah. And that process, listen, I want you guys, for anybody who you know who is watching, who's battling with high blood pressure, diabetes, tag them in the show, drop their name down in the comments. If you have any questions, our number is listed. You feel free to call in. We have our nurse practitioner here. She's able to answer any questions, or if you have any questions, please put them down in the comments, because one of the missions of Real Conversations with Kim Brown, although we attack some very, confrontational, necessary conversations, one of the things I told you guys when we started this platform is that we want to heal the community. right? That's what we're here to do. And we know that healing has to do with spiritual, mental, physical. There's so many things I've learned on this journey of being on dialysis that I wish somebody had told me. You know what I mean? Like, for me personally, like I shared with you, I was diagnosed with high blood pressure when I was 18. You 18, you think you gonna live forever. You know, you like high blood pressure, what is that? Hand me the salt. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's really how, you know, it is when you're that young. You don't understand what that means. And coming from our community, all we know is some greens and hog mogs and chitlins and like, you don't know anything about proper eating. The kid and I were sitting here talking about, I didn't even really have the proper concept of what a food desert was, or even understanding that our communities primarily live in food deserts where we do not have access to proper nutrition to feed our bodies. Exactly. That's a whole nother conversation. I might have to have you back, sis. I might have to bring you back. But I, you know, do this journey of being on dialysis, there's so much I had to learn. One of the things I want you to talk about is the renal diet. Because you know, like, it's such a strict diet, but one of the things people don't realize is it's so hard to be on the renal diet because everything that's good for you, you can't have. So talk a little bit about that.
So that's the number one complaint that I have with patients, even patients before they even start dialysis. When we start talking about the diet, they're like, well, what do I eat? You know, you named everything that I like to eat. I can't eat it anymore. So unfortunately, things that are healthy for people with normal to function kidneys are not healthy for people that are on dialysis. So a lot of the fruits and vegetables our patients can't have because they're high in potassium, and the kidney is one of the organs that gets rid of that electrolyte. If your potassium is too high or too low, it can stop your heart. Phosphorus is another thing that the patients have to watch. So they have a low phosphorus diet and they have to take medication. Most people have to take medications with their food to bind the phosphorus. The phosphorus is healthy for our bones, but when in excess, it is not healthy for our dialysis patients because phosphorus can make your arteries hard, make your affect your heart. So it's just not only just your bones, it affects your arteries too. So our patients have to watch that. So it is a very difficult diet. And then if you have other, you know, things like diabetes or heart failure, you really have to, you know, watch these, you know, things. It's like a double whammy. It's a very difficult diet to follow.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, I have daily struggles. There are times where I'm like, what do you eat? What don't you eat? You know, it is definitely a difficult battle. But I want to ask you, why is this information important for the Black community? Why is this important for us? Why should we care about kidney health? Why is this important?
We should most definitely care in our community, because just being African American and some other ethnicities as well, which I'll talk about later, put you at risk for kidney disease. So, and that's because our community, there's a high incidence and prevalence of high blood pressure and diabetes. And so a lot of times people feel fine. They'll feel fine with a high blood pressure. And then you go to the doctor and get lab work and they say, you know, your numbers are looking bad, your kidney numbers are looking bad. And the person is like, how is that? Because I feel fine. And I know we have a lot of mistrust in the African American community with the medical field because of things that has been done to us in the past. So they don't trust the physicians or nurse practitioners because of things that has been done in the past. So they don't follow their advice. They don't make the changes. So, you know, that's why I'm happy about this platform, because we get to educate our community, you know, saying it's real. It's not we're putting this on you. Every time I go to the doctor, they find something wrong. Well, you have to, you know, try to correct those things. And it may seem like that's what it is, but, you know, you're always open to getting a second opinion, but just don't ignore the information. If you don't do anything about it, that doesn't make it go away. It just makes it worse.
And I'm so glad that you said that about the mistrust in the African American community, because as a social worker, that's something that I deal with daily. You know, talking with clients, talking with, you know, the people that I serve and helping them understand, like, listen, I understand where that mistrust is, but, you know, this particular disease and many others have, you know, taken many in our community out.
Yes.
Because we refuse to go get checked out. We don't want to take medication. We don't want to believe in the science. And listen, I'm a believer. You know what I'm saying? I'm a believer of Jesus Christ. I believe in praying, laying hands, all of that. But I also think you need to go to the doctor. You know what I'm saying? Take it from somebody who has been on this journey of being on dialysis for 10 years. Thankful that God has kept me.
Yes.
But at the same time, this is something that was preventable.
Yep.
I mean, let's have a real conversation. This was something that was preventable. Had I had the education, had I really knew, you know, the implications and everything that was I would have chose a better diet.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And so it's very important to me to have these type of conversations and urge people to listen to people like you, not only because you are a professional, but because you look like me.
Exactly.
You come from my community. So she understands our plight. She know what we go through. She understands, you know, what it means to be a Black person in this society and to have to deal with medical issues. With that being said, how can a person, or what would be some of the things that you would share with our community about how to deal with that ambivalence or that fear of the medical community, because you representing the medical community?
Well, if someone feels more comfortable with having treatment with someone who looks like them, then I would seek that out, because a lot of other ethnicities, that's what they do. You know, they may be Chinese, they go to their Chinese physician, or religious wise, they may be Jewish and they go to their people, you know. So if they feel more comfortable with hearing the information from someone who looks like them, then I would, you know, do that. Or if you get some information and you don't believe it, you know, get a second opinion. But just don't ignore things. What you mentioned, you know, it could be preventable, because the two main causes of kidney disease are preventable, which is high blood pressure and diabetes. So you may feel okay. And I always tell people, I will get somebody's labs, I will look at them, and they will be looking perfectly fine. But those insides are not. It's things going on, and they can't believe it because they feel okay. And that's the thing about kidney disease. The initial stages don't have any signs or symptoms. They feel perfectly fine. By the time you feel bad, your kidney disease is very far, you know, advanced. But don't ignore the information. If you don't feel comfortable with your provider, then, you know, get another one. If you need a second opinion, then do that. But just don't ignore information that you are given.
Absolutely. I'm so glad that you shared that, because we were talking earlier about some of the challenges that I have faced as being a Black woman, being on dialysis and having to deal with different doctors. And one of the things that I have learned to do is that I have to take an active approach. Like, you have to speak up. You know, when you're uncomfortable, even though they are the professional, you also know when you feel uncomfortable or there's something that you don't understand, or, you know, you got to vocalize that, you know. And so I'm always an advocate, as naturally as a social worker, but then just telling people, you know, did you ask this question? Did you ask for information? You know, did you ask for them to give you a place where you can go get more information about it? You know, always ask questions of anybody who is giving you any type of diagnosis, medication, or anything. And then also, too, it's okay for you to seek out African-American providers.
It is. And I'm glad you mentioned, as far as advocating, you know, for yourself and asking questions, because that's the only way to learn about yourself, about whatever your diagnosis is to ask questions. And we had spoke about, you know, a situation earlier where some information was given, but it wasn't elaborated on. And then maybe, you know, the person didn't know to ask further questions. So if someone says something to you, actually somebody did bring this up. Years ago, they had protein in their urine, and this person is on dialysis now. And she remembered that it was about 10 or 15 years ago. She remembered her doctor telling her that, but it was no other elaboration done. So she's thinking back 15 years ago, somebody told her some information, but nothing else was done about it. But now she knows what that meant. And that at that time meant that she was having damaged kidneys when you're spilling protein in your urine. So it's good to ask questions, and if the provider is getting irritated with you or frustrated, which they shouldn't, because I like when my patients, you know, ask me questions, they want to know how to take care of themselves, then you need to find somebody else. So if you're being prescribed a medication, you need to ask, what is it for? What is it going to do? If you're given a diagnosis, what does that mean? How do you stay healthy? In this case, we're talking about kidney disease. So how do we prevent it, more damage from occurring if possible? Because there's many different causes of kidney disease, but the two that I speak about a lot is the high blood pressure and diabetes, because those are preventable, things for kidney disease. So, but anyway, just make sure you ask lots of questions. Don't be afraid. The provider is just a person just like you, but this is your life, so you need to make sure you're well informed.
Listen, I am so glad that you made that last statement. This is your life, because I gotta say that I'm a believer that everything happens in your life for a reason. You know what I'm saying? Like, sitting here today, of course, I could say that if I could go back, this would be probably something that I would change, because kidney disease and being on dialysis is devastating. You know what I'm saying? I remember, like, when I first got started, I'm like, okay, what does this mean? I don't understand. And I went and got a second opinion, and that doctor was like, I'm so glad that you did that. He was like, but your kidneys are done. He was like, you're at the point where you need to be on dialysis. Everything that your doctor told you, you need to run, not walk. Like, if you want to, have any, chance of prolonging your life, this is what you need to do. And so, of course, the next couple of months were like a whirlwind. It's like, you got to get we got to put you in surgery. You have to get a fistula. It's like, I'm like, oh, what's going on? It was like everything happening at once. But the one of the things that it taught me is that this is your life. You only get one.
Exactly.
Like, I think a lot of times coming from our community, sometimes we see so much devastation. We experience so much trauma. We lose that sense of value for life. You know what I mean? Like, we really do. And so being on dialysis taught me how much important life is, my life, and then how you only get one. It has really caused me to open my eyes to so many different things related to health. Can you talk to us about how necessary it is now for us to establish conversations, even with our children, even with our family members surrounding health? Because this is not common in our community.
Exactly. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because this topic we're talking about today, kidney disease, it can run in your family. It can run in your family because high blood pressure runs your family, or because diabetes runs your family, or because there are some inherited kidney diseases as well. So the conversation does need to be held with the children, the mother. You need to find out, what's what, so you know how to, carry yourself and your health record and pass those things down, to your family as well. But we do need to start having these conversations. I know a lot of people hide their illnesses. They don't want people to know about it. I've had patients on dialysis where their close family didn't know they were on dialysis. It was just the spouse, but nobody else knew. And so I never found out what the reason, that person did that. But, people need to know, so they need to know how to take care of themselves, not to just, give away your medical information or anything, because everybody yells out HIPAA these days and everything. But people need to know their history, their medical history, and where they come from, from the bloodline, so they know how to.
Yeah. And I could definitely understand how a person would be private with that, because there is a level of discrimination that someone would experience by, sharing that. But for me personally, when I first came into my unit, I was the youngest person. Like, you know what I mean? Like, everybody around me were older. I'm talking older. And so one of the things that I was so passionate about going to DC with you and the rest of the team was because I wanted people to know that dialysis is me. A young Black mother with children, you know what I'm saying, pursuing a degree, lively, because when you hear dialysis, the first thing you think is older people who are in their latter stages of life. But over these course of the 10 years that I've been on dialysis, I've seen my unit change drastically. Like, I went from being the youngest person to being people younger than me. It went from you know, like having other young women ask like, okay, how did you have a baby? How was that possible? You know what I mean? So I want you to talk to us about how this conversation is not just important because of the community, but how there has been an increase in end-stage renal disease and people of our community in our community being placed on dialysis younger. Because when I started, Nikia, I was 26. I was 26. So talk a little bit about that.
So, like you said, it's various ages. So our youngest patient they're older now, but they were 21 coming to the clinic, and you have this young 21-year-old. Then I had patients that were 90-something years old. But like you say, everybody always think of dialysis being something for older people, and it's not. And young people always think they're invincible. They're going to live forever, and all these, different kind of things. But younger people are being diagnosed with high blood pressure. Younger people are being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, which was known in the past to be an adult onset diabetes. Type 1 diabetes, of course, and it's actually, rare. But we have a lot of type 1 diabetics who, are in their 30s. They were, diagnosed when they were young, and that was my sister's case. She was diagnosed when she was 12 and then had renal failure when she was 32. So just the prevalence of obesity in our community, and that's what's spiking up these type 2 diabetes cases and the high blood pressure cases, in young people. And there's a lot of things, a lot of our health issues that we have now is based on our diet. We have so many young people with colon cancer, less than 40 years old, and, that was like a older person disease. It's like a lot of things that have to do with our diet and the way way we carry ourselves in that aspect. And then, it's kind of difficult sometimes to reach younger people, and especially when you give them a diagnosis. A lot of our younger patients, their kidney failure may not be able to be prevented. A lot of our younger women have lupus. And so lupus can affect your kidneys and hearts and different things. And so I have a lot of 20-year-old women. And it's just a different kind of, situation to see across the lifespan and all the different reasons why the kidney failure. But everybody's there for the same purpose, and that's to, live. But it's a challenging disease, and people need to have people who they can relate to their, their situation. So like you were able to relate to young women, with children, for instance, that could be helpful, for somebody to try to help get them through this, journey.
Absolutely. Here. That brings me to my next question, because we've been talking about end-stage renal disease and dialysis. Kind of talk to people about what is end-stage renal disease, because when I first came into when I first seen the nephrologist when I was 18, I think he told me at that time it was not about stages. I think he told me like my kidneys were 75% or whatever. I didn't even know what that meant. I'm like, I'm going to live forever, whatever, go off to college, continue living how I was living, got sick while I was there a couple times. I had kidney stones. And so eventually I had to leave from camp because I just couldn't, my family was like, listen, we don't know what's going on with you. You got to come home. Come home. It kind of progressed. The blood pressure get worse. Then the next thing I knew was I was pregnant. And at that time, he was telling me, listen, I don't think you should have this baby because it's only going to further worsen your kidneys. And at that time, they were 50%. And I'm like, well, I'm having this kid, so I don't even know what that means. I'm going to just take this medication. After I had my daughter, it was like quick. It was like after I had Michaela, my oldest, it was like quick. It went from 50 to down. They started prepping me to go into dialysis. And that's when I understood about stages. So talk about end-stage renal disease, or just stages in general as it relates to kidney function and kidney disease.
Okay, so I got my little cheat sheet here. Okay, so there's 5 stages of kidney disease. The 5th stage being end stage, which you would need either dialysis or a transplant to survive. So stage 1, the kidneys are working 90% or better. They have small damage. Protein may be detected in the urine, but there's no no physical symptoms, so
Okay.
you won't know. Stage 2 is your kidneys are working 60 to 89%. This damage to the kidneys, of course, protein in the urine, no physical symptoms. Stage 3 is moderate kidney damage, which is when we're talking about this percentage, we're talking about GFR, which is glomerular filtration rate. And so that's how they measure how well your kidneys are filtering out the waste.
Okay.
Stage 4 is 15 to 29%. That's severe kidney damage. And then stage 5 is when it's 15% or less. And that's when dialysis will occur, at some stage of that. Or transplant. You can be listed for transplant when your GFR gets less than 20.
Okay. So talk to us about what is dialysis, because many people don't understand what is dialysis.
So dialysis is a process where your blood is being filtered from the waste and excess fluid. There's 2 types of dialysis, hemodialysis, and then it's peritoneal dialysis, which doesn't use blood. The other functions of the kidneys that I had mentioned earlier will have to be replenished with medications. So we give people medications to control their phosphorus, give you medications to control your blood pressure because your kidneys can't do it anymore. We give you medication to help your body make more red blood cells because your kidney can't produce that hormone anymore. And then the dialysis itself filters your blood, which cleans the waste from your blood and removes the excess fluid. So that's what when you go to the bathroom, when you urinate, that's when waste and extra fluid comes out of your body.
Okay. Yeah, see, that's why we got to have people like this nurse practitioner here, Black Girl Magic, in the studio breaking it down. Because, listen, I have been having people ask me questions, but I'm not proper. I mean, I'm a patient, but I'm not proper to educate them on this. And, for me, it's been my passion to talk about my personal journey. And then also to give people information, because I've had to learn a lot of things on my own. Like I said, when I came to the unit, there was nobody that looked like me. You know what I'm saying? So I had to learn a lot in a small amount of time. You know what I'm saying? Had to navigate a lot. And then being a Black woman in that space, of course, there were a lot of other patients who were African American, but there were not a lot of techs and not a lot of doctors who I felt like I could relate to. So I had to do a lot of research, learn a lot of things on my own, and I start to find out things, but still don't feel, proper to educate people. Like I was telling you when you came in, like, I'm a patient, and sometimes I'm not a very good patient. I mean, we gonna have a real conversation or what?
Nobody is.
Like when I started this journey, I struggled. I'm like, who dialysis where? I feel perfect. I'm not going today. Then the next day you can't breathe. You're like, what's going on here? So all of these things I had to learn. And so I wanted you to come share with us all of this information so people can understand. I want you to talk to people now about what it is that you do on a daily and how are you bringing or shedding a light on kidneys in general, because you do a lot. I've had the pleasure of watching you in DM, being with you in DC, listening to how you talk to these legislators and the information that you bring in. I was in awe. I'm like, sis is... Snapchat, I was in awe because, as a young woman, it's like, man, we out here winning. You don't see this every day, So just talk to us about what is it that you do every day and how are you bringing more, shedding light on this area.
So my every day-to-day job, I'm mostly rounding the dialysis, clinic. So I, see my patients, and I do a lot of education. I think I have more time to educate the patients than the physicians do, not to, knock the physicians, but I just want my patients to understand about their current health status, what their labs mean when I, go over those kind of things, with them and try to keep them healthy as possible. And I try to move people to transplant for those who are interested. I do see patients who are not on dialysis as well in the CKD clinic. So the main goal for them is to delay the progression of the kidney disease and making sure, they're on the right medications and they're doing the right things so they won't have to get to the stage of dialysis if that's possible for that person. And then I will see some post-transplant people as well, making sure they're keeping their levels correct for the medication they have to take to keep their kidney, still working. So that's my day job. On the flip side, I try to prevent people from seeing me, period. So that's why I do the education with high blood pressure and diabetes, prevention. And, people always say, oh, I want you to be my nurse. I'm like, you don't want me to be your nurse. Because if I'm your nurse, then that means, you have kidney failure. So I'm trying to prevent you from seeing me, So, and that's why we just, preach these things, because these are the two, main causes of kidney failure, which is very prominent in our, community. The high blood pressure and the diabetes. And people, they say that you have to, I just have to put this plug out here. You have to get a physical exam every year. There's no way for you to know, oh, my blood pressure is okay. No, it's not. I will have somebody come in there with a blood pressure like 250 over like 140. Now, you would think that person would be dead, but they are just walking. And I'm like, do you have a headache? No. Do you feel okay? Yeah. I'm like, your blood pressure is 250 over 140. They're like, oh, for real? I mean, they don't know because they don't feel anything. And they're used to that. And after years and years and years, maybe you had a headache when initially your blood pressure was like that, but when you're going on and on like that, you don't feel nothing. You're fine. And your body is just being damaged and beat up. And so you have to get a physical exam every year, get checked out, get your lab work done, because there's no way to feel that you have something wrong with you until it's too, far gone. So I try to reach those people. And I do a lot of community events because we don't go to the doctor. So I'm trying to, get people to go to the doctor, but I try to meet the people where they are, Maybe you don't have a ride. So, and you have a ride to this community, event, where we're doing blood pressures and checking blood sugars and giving out information. So I try to do a lot of those things just to prevent people from, seeing me.
Mm-hmm. Listen, kudos to her. Listen, I'm so glad that you came here with us today. Like, that's one of the things I know that the Lord charged me with, starting this platform and just stepping out there on faith to get out here, because there are some people who will not listen to anybody else, but they'll listen to you or I. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, how the saying say that there's some people that will never go to church, but they'll believe God, So with that being said, it's like, it's so important for us to take these platforms to open our mouths, to share our knowledge. Mm-hmm. One of the other things that I'm working on personally is my nonprofit, which is Morgan's Care Incorporated. And one of my missions with that is to have more community events. Because see, there's a lot of people doing a lot of things, but they don't necessarily benefit our communities. You know what I'm saying? I've had the pleasure of being on both sides of the aisle. And it's like, this is a community event, but where are the resources for the people? Mm-hmm. I mean, listen, I'm not slighting nobody. Book bags are great. All of those things are great. But we need more health forums like we do. We need more workshops about, there are people who don't even know how to properly cook. Let's have a real conversation. There are people who don't even know, certain things about how to prepare certain meals or whatever the case may be. And I feel like my mind is so much bigger in what our community needs.
Exactly.
Like, I'm not knocking anybody that's doing some of the more popular things, but there are other things that we need to address, that we really need to storm this area. And for me, I've been charged up with kidneys. You know what I'm saying? Because I've noticed over these 10 years how it has changed. I'm like, man, God, what is going on? This is an area where we are missing it. You know what I'm saying? And so that's something that I'm going to be, in the years to come or next year, working more on, is bringing events to our communities, more health focus, more workshops dealing with kidneys specifically, dealing with high blood pressure, diabetes specifically, because these are the things that have the top numbers that affect our communities. So listen, y'all better look out. We are going to be doing more together. She definitely going to come back, because we have to talk more about kidneys and nutrition and just the medical in general. What I want to ask you about now is, talk to us about what are some of the ways for people who are not necessarily dealing with any kidney issues or high blood pressure. How can a person protect their kidneys on a daily? Like, what are some of the things that they can do to protect their kidneys?
Well, most definitely, you need to get an annual checkup. You need to get your blood work done. You need to get your urine screened for kidney disease. And if you have those risk factors that we discussed, being Black, but Native American, Asians, Pacific Islanders, being over the age of 60, having a history of someone in your family with kidney disease, and we spoke about that earlier, you need to know your family's history. Because if you have somebody in your family that has kidney disease on dialysis, that puts you at risk too. So and as we get older, being over the age of 60, every year we get older, we lose some function of our kidney, just a regular normal person.
Okay.
So, so age is a factor, and race is a factor. So, getting those things checked out, and then some medications can knock your kidneys out. I've had people who are on dialysis because they were, I want to say abusing, but maybe they had arthritis or whatever. They're constantly taking Motrin, constantly taking Advil and Aleve. Mm-hmm. That's damaging to your kidneys, and people don't, think about that. So medications can damage your kidneys. So you need to make sure you're drinking, plenty of water. And it's not just a water thing, because I did have somebody ask me, so I just drink water to keep my kidneys healthy? I mean, that's one of the things. But if you have these other things like diabetes, high blood, you need to get those in check and keep those in line. Mm-hmm. And the only way to know that is if you're getting a physical exam every year.
Listen, you hearing this straight from her mouth. We got the kidney nurse in the building. We got the kidney. I mean, listen, I want to appeal to my community, particularly as a mom with children. There are people who depend on us. You have other responsibilities. I want to implore you all, if you have insurance, I know for a fact that over the past year or so, they have not knocked anybody off Medicaid. That will be changing going into 2022. So if you have Medicaid, hear me clearly. Please schedule your annual exams. Schedule your appointments before the year is out. Get your blood work done. This is important, guys. Mm-hmm. This is important. We cannot fail to protect ourselves, and we cannot fail to not utilize the resources that are right before us. Mm-hmm. You have to go to the doctor. You have to go get checked out. I'm talking from the rooter to the tutor. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Don't forget the dentist and the eyes too. Exactly. These are all things that we have to check into. Listen, what else do you want to share with us before we leave? Just anything that you want us to know, or anything that we missed about concerning this area of kidneys?
I think we touched on a lot of good things, but what I do want people to know is, and there's a project that I'm working on with the American Kidney Fund, is I'm on a health equity coalition. So we missed the boat as a race in a lot of things, and we're working to change those things. And, we spoke about, medical mistrust and things like that. And I'm not saying, get over it. I'm not saying that at all, but just use, discernment and discretion when you're knocking out information that people are giving you. We want to be on the top of things and not always on the back end, and we're missing out on stuff, and our people are, dying at an alarming rate, or we don't have access to things because we're not taking advantage of it, or, sometimes those things may not be, available, but we want to make sure that we are living as long as, the other races. And another disparity that we have in the kidney community is transplantation. Mm-hmm. So minorities get transplanted less often than Caucasian people. So we want to make sure people are aware of that aspect. If you have a disease such as kidney disease, making sure you're getting all the education that you need for that. And most recently, a lot of times we missed out on transplant because of the way that our blood was being checked for kidney disease. So there's a race barrier and a race calculation that they use for blacks, and it's blacks only, that, your GFR, which talks about how well your kidneys are filtering your blood. Because you're black, they make your GFR a little higher, because they said that black people have more muscle mass and all this. How can you make a general statement about a whole population of people? That's not a biological, fact, that blacks have more muscle mass than any other race. You can't say that about everybody. You may say about him, but what if you had this 100-year-old lady who weighs 80 pounds? So she has more muscle mass than this white man that's 32, so... but that race calculation is being changed across the United States, and now blacks will equally have the same advantage as whites to be transplanted just as equal. And that was a very, big thing, because your GFR depends on what kind of medication that you take, because after your kidneys get to a certain level, there's certain medications that you have to stop taking. Our liver and kidneys are the ones that filters medications and different things go through our body. So that if Black people were still taking these medicines, that's doing more damage to them. Or if they say that you can't get listed for transplant until your GFR is 20, and just because I'm Black, mine is 22, but Mary, she's white and hers is 18, so she can get listed for a kidney and I can't. That's what put us at a disadvantage. So now all those things are being changed. So I just want people to aware that we have an equal playing field, and that's what I work so hard for, health equity for Blacks.
Listen, put some hands on her, though. Nakia Davis, nurse practitioner. I want y'all to remember the name. Because, listen, I believe you going to see sis on your TV screen. I'm going to tell you, I was so amazed and astounded when we went to D.C., and I will talk about this experience forever. Being there, but also seeing in those rooms, like, okay, you think that, our legislators are coming together to make decisions. They're sending their representatives. But then to see that some of these people were younger than me, I'm talking 18 years old, like literally, it changed the way I thought about how important voting is.
Yeah.
How important it is for me to educate myself about everything, as it relates to who we choose in office. And so I was just so excited to have you, to know you, to meet you, particularly to bring you somewhere here like this, because we have an advocate. We have somebody who understands how things work, who is educated in this area, and who is willing to go and fight the fight for our people, generations to come, right? Because the truth is, in this life, we don't know when we will be impacted or affected by anything, medically or not. But we do want it to be fair, right? Absolutely. We want to get fair treatment. We want to have the same chance as anybody else. And so, listen, we are encouraging you guys we have to do the work too. We got to go to the doctor. We have to change how we eat. This talking to somebody who struggles with weight herself. These things are important, and they are necessary for our people to survive.
Absolutely.
Right? For generations to come. So listen, put some hands on us. Go! I got Nakia Davis in the building. I am so excited to have you. So glad that you are here with us. Listen, if you guys have any questions that you were not able to answer while we were here, please drop them in the chat. You're going to see her again. She's going to have to come back. We're going to have multiple more different conversations, because trust me, this beautiful Black woman here has a wealth of knowledge, and I am just passionate about linking with other women of color to really help our community. Listen, that's where I'm at. That's what we doing over here on Real Estate Conversations with Kim Brown. Listen, you talk to us about what it is that you do. Where can we find you? Where can we follow you? What are you doing?
Well, on my Facebook, I have The Kidney Nurse, and then I have a website, thekidneynurse.com. And that website will link you to different resources, such as the National Kidney Foundation, American Kidney Fund, drug discount cards if you don't have insurance. So I have a doctor on there. He's a nephrologist. He cooks, so they call him the kidney cooking doc.
Okay.
And he makes recipes, kidney-friendly recipes for people. So it's a nice website, if I must say so myself.
Okay. Listen, tell us one more time where we can find you before we go, because I want people to get connected to you and everything you're doing. Tell us again.
TheKidneyNurse.com is the website, and I'm on Facebook, I'm The Kidney Nurse. On Twitter, I'm The Kidney Nurse. On Instagram, I'm The Kidney Nurse.
Listen, I am going to do my best to tag her handles on the page. I want you guys to follow her. I want you to support. I want you to look at her website, everything that she has going on. If you got questions, you can definitely hit her inbox. She's the professional. That's what we do here on Real Conversation with Kim Brown. Like I told you guys, it is my joy and it is my purpose to connect our community to people who can help elevate us and to elevate necessary conversations about what we need to be talking about. Listen, I'm so glad that y'all tuned in today. We've been talking about kidney health. If you missed it or you just coming in, you can watch us on the replay. Listen, I thank y'all for tuning in with us tonight. Check out my page, follow me, like, share, invite, all of that. If you are looking to advertise your business, your product, anything that you have going on, check out my packages on Real Conversations with Kim Brown. Listen, holla at your girl. Listen, come on, support me. Yes. See what we have going on here. I just want to thank you guys for tuning in to us tonight. We're going to let y'all go.
And thank you
Real
for having me.
Conversation with Kim Brown. Oh, go ahead, Nikki, tell them.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you guys for having her on tonight. Again, Real Conversation with Kim Brown. Real Conversation with Kim Brown. Good night.